Yo, what is up, everybody? Hey, this is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. This is the show all about college football. So, Ian, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Sorry
All
if
right.
I'm a little distracted. I actually have the LSU Florida State
I,
game
I've
on
got it
it.
on as well. I put in this new TV in my office, so it's fucking great. I got like basically my fucking like I don't like my main center, like your hub of everything. It's great. It's perfect. It works for I've got my desktop, I got my big old TV now, so we can broadcast here. But let's do a little bit about who we are. It's a Hater Radio is a media brand all about college football. My name is Chris McLean. My co-host is Ian Gibson. You can reach us at hater_radio for basically all the socials, even TikTok now. I just got on there. And Ian, what are your socials, real quick?
Yes, it's at GGatorG2 at Twitter, GGatorG Instagram, and GGatorG YouTube.
So reach us out there. I'm always on Twitter. I'm constantly on there talking shit. Just talking shit right now to a UCF fan. This guy Fear the Pegasus that's always fucking blasting USF, even though they're no longer scheduled to play each other for the near future, whatever. That guy's a douchebag. So, anyways, let's not get into it. We've got the LSU game going on right now. I know some people are watching it. It looks like Florida State is scoring right now. So it's 7, and LSU missed out on an opportunity to score. They drove down the field really quick. Yeah, it was like 7 plays inside the 5 and couldn't score, but whatever. Let's move on. Let's talk about the games that happened. We'll talk about this throughout the broadcast. But so the first game I want to talk about was the game on Thursday and where I was at Thursday. I was in Salt Lake City for the game, and Utah, Florida. It was the sequel to last year's opening act of the Billy Napier tenure, and I thought the team was going to be a lot better, but they struggled mightily in a lot of phases. I think defensively they played a lot better than I think we thought possible, but definitely the struggles on third downs, struggles with penalties, struggles in special teams especially, was really the downfall. I had a good time. The Utah people were great people, a lot of really great hospitality. The restaurants were great. The stadium was nice. I had some issues with getting water, which was kind of ridiculous. I had a standing room only seat, but I still enjoyed the stadium. It's nice and big. People are like, oh, it's tiny. But I mean, like 55,000 seat stadium is still a pretty big stadium. And
I'll trade those extra 40,000 seats with that view of the mountains. Every time I see those shots in Utah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I took a bunch of pictures, because I was like, man, this is great views everywhere. And like it is a picturesque city, and we're talking about the game, and it's just the struggle that it seems like the Napier area has really not gone off to the greatest start. They went 6-7 last year, and honestly, since they beat Utah in the first game last year, they're 5-8. So
Yep.
It's been tough, and I liked what Mertz did. If you're looking at something to be the bright side, Mertz actually looked pretty good. They didn't throw a ton deep, but had some success. And I know, like, I saw some guys mentioning the stats that like he was like one of the I guess regarding his overall passing stats, it was lacking any downfield threat in any way, and like was like very low on the ranking of like total numbers as far as downfield threats or downfield passing. So obviously there's a struggle there, and they need to get better there. The offensive line did not do a good job. They were, Utah was in the backfield the entire time. What was it? 5 sacks? I believe that's what it was.
It was some number like that. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was too many.
Yeah, and it was frustrating. As a fan watching the game, and that's what we are about on Hater Radio, is about being fans, because it's like as much as yes, we trying to be a media brand. We're still realizing our bias towards the teams that we like, and we're not trying to shy away from it. That's like the whole goal with what we're doing here. So, I struggled with enjoying the game at all. And that's really, that's frustrating as a fan of a team. It's like, at least if you lose, you can still find some enjoyment in the game. There was honestly, I don't know. There was almost like no moments of joy, because they got a field goal.
It was like the first play, from Utah.
And I was in outside the stadium at the time, and I was coming back to my car real quick and then going to head to the game, and I could hear the roar, and I knew they scored because you could just tell by how loud it was, and it was loud, and I was like at least like half a mile away, and I was like, wow, that's definitely a big play. And it was like right as the game started, I'm like, man, that is not a good sign. And I don't know, it's yes, but you have to realize Utah is a really good team. This is not like this was a slouch. All these other teams got to play these FCS teams, these directional school teams, these bottom of the barrel teams that are basically glorified practices. Well, Florida had to play a two-time defending conference champion that on the road with a ton of experience on both sides of the ball. And yes, they didn't have their starting quarterback and they were down to their third and fourth string, but those guys were talented enough to make plays, and the rest of the team is very good. So it's not like they were playing garbage. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not defending it because the mistakes were terrible. The stuff on special teams was dreadful, especially that jersey incident with both Eugene Wilson and Jason Marshall having number 3. Like, I think I saw somewhere where it was saying that Eugene had switched from 21, and that was the problem. But then someone else had mentioned that Desmond Watson was on that play, so there still would have been a problem regardless. So I don't know. It seems like a very lazy take on their job and just not being prepared. And that's a shame because you have all 9 months to prepare from the second that bowl game was until this first game for this first game. And you should have every I dotted, every T crossed. You should be so prepared that you're double prepared, as my brother always makes fun of my dad for. It's like literally they practice for like 4 weeks in training camp. They should have been ready to go in this game. And there was so many mistakes. And I will granted say that I saw in the TCU game at like near the end of the third quarter, they were at home and defending or the runner-up last year in the national championship game, and they had 4 false starts on the offensive line. So it does happen. Like, it's not like other teams don't make mistakes. It's just they were like, it seemed like every time they had a crucial down, they made a mistake that really like shot them in the foot. And it was, the third down in the red zone area when they were about to score. If they score a touchdown there, that game goes, it's 10-7. Who knows where that game goes? Then it's like, not only do they not get the touchdown, then they miss the field goal, and then they get a stop on defense, which the defense actually made stops in this game. And then the stupid jersey number shit. And so then Utah gets the ball, goes down and score. Then Crawshaw shanks a punt. And because of the shank punt, Utah gets a short field, scores again. And it was 17-3. And it just felt like, honestly, at 17-3, that felt like 35.
That was it. Yeah.
It really did. The way the offense was moving, it just felt like there was no way for the team to really recover from that. And it's a shame because if there's and I don't want to say it because everyone says it, there's a few plays that could have changed the game. Yeah, of course. But it's just frustrating because, we're all fans of this team, the ones that are watching this and enjoying this. It's frustrating to see the team struggle like this. And I just want to see them have some success. I know that it's it's still a work in progress, but it's very frustrating to watch. I want to hear your opinions, Ian.
Yeah, that was very. That was like the most dead I have ever watched a Gator game. Well, at least a home opener. I'm sorry, not home opener, season opener. And all the points you made, yeah, I like Graham Mertz did good. The defense looked better, but God, those mistakes. It wasn't just that they happened. It was the worst possible time you could have them happen. First drive of the game. It's 3rd and 1, false start, becomes 3rd and 6, and you're asking a lot because, unfortunately, with this team, the talent level, as I said in my article, it just is not there yet. It's not there yet. It's not. You can't compete with these, elite teams right now. And they had every opportunity to kind of jump on them. Utah was down, I think, 8 starters. So that was my thing I was going to counter with is when people said, oh, it was only 24-11, I was like, you're right. It could have been like 38-11 because if Cam Rising and the rest of those starters were in, I would not be surprised if they kind of ran the score up because Florida just didn't look good enough to win that game. And, you had the false start. You had the other false start at 4th and 1, which instead of it being 7 to, you get the first down, and I think it was 7-3 at that point. Then you got to kick the field goal, which is missed. That then results in a touchdown that drive. And then, of course, the punt, which 2 plays later was a touchdown. The whole game was just a mess. It was very disappointing. It's weird because I expected them to – I knew the talent level wasn't there, but I expected them to play better and limit those kind of mistakes. It just didn't happen. The other thing that absolutely perplexed me was the over-reliance on the passing game. This whole offseason, including my article, and even from Billy Napier, they have stressed that you have to rely on the run game in order for this offense to hum. It can't just be on the way the passing game is set up. The weapons are not there. Graham Mertz, as good as he was, isn't going to be the guy to win you a game. Ricky Pearsall is the best wide receiver, but it's still there's not a whole lot else backing him up. So if you can have a consistent run game, that just makes it that much easier for the passing game. And then they just gave up on it. And I'll give credit. That goes to Utah. Utah just sold out on the run and just said, okay, beat us through the air. And they knew we couldn't. So I think that's just great coaching on the side of Utah. And it just shows like this season or this game, the lack of like talent to overcome that adversity. It's unfortunately what it is. The other sad thing was I kind of did expect it because, again, I just don't think the Gators are where they should be right now. I don't think the talent is there. I just don't think they know how to win these big games yet. Obviously, the biggest win was Utah last year. And since then, there hasn't really been a win that I can win. Maybe I guess I can make the argument for Texas A&M last year, but both teams were kind of just in Chernobyl mode.
I would say that South Carolina win was probably the like
in hindsight, yeah.
Because South Carolina ended up beating Clemson and Tennessee in subsequent weeks, and that was, considering that Florida basically shut them out except for one special teams miscue, like that was, and they pretty much dominated Tennessee and took it to Clemson, and both of those teams had shots at the playoff if they won out. So, we're all frustrated as fans. I talked to countless fans that were still in Salt Lake after the game. Talked to a bunch of bunch of fans that I met with before the game. We want this team to succeed, and I think, we have, we're just wanting so much out of it, and it just doesn't seem like it's getting there. And it's frustrating because we've gone through since Urban, 13, 14 years of just struggling. There was, 2 or 3 good years there where the team actually competed. And
2012, 2015, 2019, and 2020. So yeah.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years. So there has been moments of of glory, but then it's, long stretches of just terribleness. And it's, 2 6-7 seasons in a row. And now this year starting off 0-1. And I don't know. I expected more out of Billy. He sounded confident coming into the season. The way he was talking to the media sounded like he knew more than all of us and knew what he was seeing out in practice. And it was, going to be something more, but I don't know, just it's frustrating. It just really is. That's the key. That is the word to describe this weekend. And I was just going to shout out real quick to a couple people. So Joe Grant, comment, go knows, whatever. Joe, I love you, brother, but we'll see. It's 7-7 right now.
Yeah, LSU just scored.
But no, and also shout out Mike. I don't know Mike's last name, but I met him on Wednesday night at the Green Pig, and Mike goes by Just Getting Better on Twitter. Great guy. Me and Mike get along a lot on a lot of sports takes. Me and him are Magic fans, so we commiserate about that. And no, he was great. Mike is a great Gator fan and a great follow, and glad to meet him. I bought him a couple beers. We were taking shots together, and him and his buddy Cam, and Cam is on he's on a podcast. I can't remember which one. Cam, if you see this, let me know so I can shout you out next time. But and also their friend Justin and some other people. I met Harrison, a younger guy from Twitter that's really funny, and it was a good experience. Like, I will say, besides the game, which I was really frustrated about, everything else was enjoyable. I probably ran into 50 Gator fans outside of the game. Like, that's how many were around Salt Lake City, and all throughout my entire time, there was a ton of people there. And it's a shame that it went the way it did, but I don't know, man. I'm glad they do games like this because this is more fun than playing a shitty team. I don't like when they play FCS teams. It's not enjoyable. Like, you don't really get anything out of it. Like, we as a podcast, as a brand, don't even cover those games because there's nothing there. There's no analysis to be made about beating a team of essentially JV players playing against a varsity team. It's not equal. In no way is it a fair assessment of how a team actually is. So I don't like seeing those games. Hopefully if we get to a point where there are just 3 or 4 conferences, they get to the point where they're just playing each other and they don't play any of these smaller teams. It sucks for those smaller teams. They don't get that payout, but I'm sorry. Major college football deserves to have, better matchups. And I think that's coming, especially with the playoff. It'll make it more of a thing, because if there is an emphasis on getting to the playoff with, even if you have a loss or two, it's not going to be that big of a deal that, you play these big teams, because you're going to get a chance to be able to get in there. So, all right, let's move on. I'm going to break down USC, UCLA, and USF, and then we'll move on to the rest of the games. I'm just going to do USC really quick because, again, it was one of those games, one of those FCS or whatever, Nevada. It's a smaller team. It doesn't really have much to compete against, the Trojans. But Caleb looked good. But, again, the stats are meaningless. It'll add to his Heisman totals, which, that's important. So he got 4 TDs and 278 yards and no turnovers. So he looked good in the game. Again, they don't play anyone for the next couple of weeks until they play Notre Dame August 14th. So, it's really going to be just kind of play as many young freshmen and sophomore you can to get ready for the big games coming up in October and November. So moving on to UCLA. Now, Ian, I want to hear your opinion before I talk about it, because I know you love the Chanticleers, and I wish I had no idea that Coastal was playing UCLA on Saturday until it was I had already did my travel plans for Utah, and if I had known that, I would have made sure that I would have been able to come back to be able to go to that game, because I would love to go to that game, because it was a close game for almost 90% of it. So it was interesting. Grayson McCall is still very good. still a very solid quarterback that, got the job done. But I want to hear your opinion on it before I break down what I've got to say.
Yeah, I was really impressed by, Coastal. Again, this is where it's like talent versus talent. You can easily see how UCLA could have ran away with this, but somehow Coastal has this thing to just be a pain in the ass to these teams. It's quite impressive. But yeah, unfortunately though, the offense for Coastal just was sputtering throughout the entire game, especially early on. They didn't get a whole lot going. I know that they were able to make it 14-13 around the third quarter. But after that, they just kind of ran out of gas. And I think you see that a lot with these group of 5 teams. They just don't have the endurance to hang on to these games. UCLA's defense, though, we've talked literally, it's amazing how Grayson McCall is still in college. We talked a lot about the ability of McCall and how dangerous he can be. Through the air and through the running, but they did a very good job of same thing as what Utah did: sell out on the run, make them beat you in the air. And McCall had to throw over 40 passes against a very, very tough secondary of UCLA. And even then, they still did very good. Sam Pickney, I believe it was, for Coastal, had a fantastic game. I know he had over 100 yards and a touch. He had that big touchdown. But all in all, the better team won. UCLA just showed, they won out through the talent. It was interesting to see both Dante Moore and I believe it was Ethan Garbers, kind of go back and forth, because I don't know at UCLA as well, but I don't know if there's as much of a quarterback controversy, because it looked like they were splitting time and the stats were pretty similar. But it was all in all way for UCLA to kind of fell into the trap. I kind of got that impression that, okay, they were kind of sleepwalking through this, and then, Coastal kind of gained up on them. Both teams just were like, okay, we're going to have to pass it through, pass to win the game. And ultimately UCLA, I believe, because of the better talent and able to make the big play, was able to, pull out the win. It was, the defense really bailed them out. UCLA could make the case of having, an elite defense. Credit is Coastal. But it was really good for them to, wake up before it got, too scary, because they were giving them a tough time.
Yeah. The defensive coordinator just got brought in this year is Danton Lynn. He's the son of the former Chargers head coach. I can't remember his dad's first name, but he was the safety coach with the Ravens, I think, last year. And, very young guy, but seems to be very smart assistant coach now into this coordinator position. And he seems to, honestly, the cornerbacks and the safeties were playing, balls out. They played a phenomenal game. Honestly, I was, let's see, 10 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 3 turnovers caused. They really got after Grayson McCall, and they only allowed 56 rushing yards, and it was a very good performance. I got too tired by halftime. I had to go to bed because I had an early flight today, so I didn't get to watch all of it. I watched some of the highlights when I got home before I started the broadcast. But no, it was, as much as Coastal is a Power 5 team, or not Power 5, Group of 5 team, they still are one of the better Group of 5s and could honestly compete in, I would say they'd be competitive in the Big 12, competitive in the ACC, and probably competitive in the Big 10. They'd probably struggle in the SEC, but still, I think they're a decent team that can move the ball. But UCLA, the defense was the problem last year. If they can fix that, they honestly, all they have to go is like average. If they're an average defense, just like with the case with Florida, just like the case with USC, then you'll have a much better team for all 3 of them. And, Dante Moore, they did split time, but once Garbers threw the second interception, he was out the rest of the game, and Dante Moore stayed in. And so I really think that is a telling sign, because Dante Moore is a highly – oh, my God. Jaden Daniels got just annihilated. Ooh. Did you see that?
Yeah.
That has to be targeting. How is that not targeting? Like, he's a defensive player going up in the air, and he just spears him right in the head.
Ooh.
Wow. How is that not targeting? There's not even a flag. There's nothing. What is going on? I mean, he's fine, but that was brutal.
Maybe that's what they're calling it off of, because he's not injured.
I don't know. I don't know why they didn't. Nothing. Wow, that is remarkable. They give targeting calls for way less.
Yeah, true.
Oh, that's a foul. He tripped him. What is going on? Florida State is fouling the shit out of them, and I know they've called a bunch, but that was definitely PI. All right, end of the first quarter, 7-7. But anyway, so Dante Moore is a very highly recruited high school quarterback coming out. He was, I think, second overall recruit, and I loved what he did. He had that long touchdown to J. Michael. I can't remember how do you say his last name, but that was a great play. And J. Michael had a great game as well. He had I think he had over 100 yards, and the running game was solid. They were able to move the ball. Dante is more of an athletic quarterback, mobile, more so than Garbers. And that was, I think why they switched into him, because he was able to move the ball. Garbers moved the ball in the first series, but after that struggled. He had at least one red zone interception. I can't remember if it was another. Dante had one as well. But, Garbers just looked out of sorts, and I think Moore is going to be the guy they're going to go to. He's a young guy, but I think it's the right move. I'm excited for this team because I think they're very much under the radar. They're not even ranked right now, and if they just keep at this, if this defense can be as good as I think it can be, this is going to be a really good year for them. And maybe 10 wins, which would be great, and possibly 11, which would be amazing. But I think 10 wins is definitely attainable if this team plays as well as it does, and if Dante Moore can progress from this game. So let's move on to USF. Ian, I don't know how much you watched of this game.
Oh, I watched it all.
I was so happy with the performance. I've been watching their games the last couple of years, and it's been hard to watch. Paint drying, hard to watch. And when that first quarter was going on, I was just like, what is this? This is when they went for it on 4th and 2 on their 40, and they got to the line in a sugar huddle and went super fast and got up there and got it. I was just like, oh my God, this is so much night and day different from Jeff Scott. And, there were mistakes, the game was 31-24, and, USF was driving and they were on the 5, and Byram threw that terrible interception in the end zone. But honestly, it was a very good team. Western Kentucky is one of the better passing attacks in all of college football. And, I wasn't displeased with the defense. I thought the defense was adequate. The secondary was making plays. They were throwing it so damn much. You just knew they were going to make, some plays. There's nothing they could do. They just had to basically hold on. And they did. They did enough essentially to almost win the game for them. So, it's first game. There's a lot going on. Alex Golish, I commend you for getting this team ready. And there were some mistakes, but I feel like it's a good step forward. And, next week they play FAMU, and they could easily beat FAMU. That's not going to be a challenge. I know FAMU's a good FCS team, but still, USF will be solid. And I'm excited for the future of this team because it's been so frustrating since I moved out here to LA. It's been, terrible. The record has been atrocious. So, Ian, what are your thoughts on the game? I'd really like to hear what you saw.
I was really happy up until the end. Oh no, yes, I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. The team looked night and day better, and I understand this is a loss, and I'm sure as shit not gonna give moral victories or any of that because they still lost.
Yeah.
So that's I had that with somebody at work too. It was like, well, at least USF looked good, and I was like, they still lost, dude. I'm not feeling totally better. But all in all, yes, the offense looked a lot better. God, I don't get it. Why are you throwing the ball inside the 5? That's just me.
Yeah, when they had 374 yards on the ground, like they were destroying them on the ground. Like
you either tell Wright, Dukes, or Brown. You tell them, okay, read options, something like that.
We both know as Florida fans how good Naquan is, and it was like I wasn't surprised he did as well as he did. He's a phenomenal back. And I'm glad that he went to USF because it's like, if he wasn't going to stay at Florida, might as well go to our other favorite school and do well there. And he fucking killed it. And Brown struggled, but he still made a lot of plays. And the potential is there, and that's what I'm really happy about because there's still definitely a chance that he can. Oh my God, LSU cannot do these short yardage plays. They've got to do some they're trying to run on Florida State and it's not working at all. They need to do play action or something because they're getting beat in their gaps. Watch this. Are you watching the replay?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I might be a little behind.
Man, if one of the tight ends, maybe it was a run or a RPO.
Wasn't good.
Yeah, it looked like maybe it was because he was coming back like he was going to pop and throw it to somebody. I don't know. If one of those tight ends had gone out the other way, out to the left side, maybe there'd have been something there. Whatever. No, just keep going real quick. And then we'll move on to these other scores and call it a day.
Yeah. So all in all, yes, the offense looked a lot better. Defense did as good as they could. There is more hope I have going into this season. One thing I did want to note too that I mentioned towards the end of that game, USF looked gassed from that hurry up offense, which we all knew it was going to happen. Yeah. I don't think they're conditioned. There's a big difference between doing it in practice all summer and then going into the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left, and they're going, okay, on the ball. So that's something that we're going to have to look at to see how well the team adjusts because they've never had to do that before. So hopefully, that's something that can get addressed quickly.
Yeah. No, I mean, it definitely, I saw a bunch of other people talk about it, that they were gassed. I didn't notice it as much because where I was watching it, I didn't have the volume on, so I couldn't hear the announcers talk about it because I couldn't really necessarily tell from what I was seeing, and I was also drinking, so that could have added to my failure of noticing things. But no, it definitely is an issue. It's probably large to do with the lack of talent per se, and that there's a lack of depth because of the lack of talent. So it's a struggle that they're going to have to deal with this year at least. I like where Golish is going recruiting wise, and it seems like they're already the best AAC team recruiting wise so far for this 2024 class. So hopefully those things will start to turn around. But no, I mean, all in all, Western Kentucky's a good team. It was a tough road game, and they didn't look extremely terrible. The offense
looked better.
Yeah, offense looked competent, and the defense played tough. And that's honestly all I'm really asking for. Because last couple of years, the defense has been atrocious. They were literally last place last year. So, you couldn't get much. You can't get any worse. You can only get better potentially. So, let's move on. We'll do these last couple of games. We'll talk about them, and then we'll call it a day. Okay, Tennessee, Virginia. Tennessee wins 49-13. It was it wasn't a home game. It was technically a neutral site game, but it was in
where the Titans play, right?
Yeah, the Titans play in Nashville. So I mean, I don't know. Virginia's not very good. They lost Brennan Armstrong. They obviously struggled with the death of those players last year, which obviously is very tough to deal with. Regardless of how you say you want to move on, you still really fight with that for a very long time. So it may be a very tough year for Virginia. And it's a shame. But Joe Milton, I numbers wise, I didn't see anything that impressive. I didn't get a chance to watch the 15-minute recap because I didn't have enough time today. Like I said, I flew back in this morning, so I didn't really have enough time to do a proper research for the broadcast. But I will promise next going forward that I'll get that done before I do these broadcasts. But which I have done in the past, and I will admit. But no, but I think because Tennessee's going to play Florida in 2 weeks. It's a very important game. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to it, but it's definitely a team that, offensively they have a lot of good moving parts, a lot of good wide receivers and running backs. I think Milton is the key. Oh my God, he fumbled it. Oh my God, dude, LSU. How is this possible? 2 years in a row. This is pathetic.
Oh man, they are gift wrapping this.
Oh my God! Wow, dude. Just amazing.
That's rough.
Oh my God! And then he almost had it, and then he lost, and it went right to that guy. This is pathetic. Anyway, so definitely the Tennessee game seems to be like a pivotal moment in what happens in this season for Florida. Your thoughts on this game, then we'll move on.
Yeah, nothing much. I mean, this was kind of a squash match. Tennessee just had the better talent. It took the offense a little while to get humming. But by the end, towards the end of the second and going well into the third, Tennessee just flexed their muscles. Milton, not the most eye-popping game, but I can tell, he's going to have more big games in him.
Yeah. Intercepted. Yes. There.
Oh,
justice. There's justice in the world.
Oh, don't lie.
Okay. So, let's move on. Now, this is probably the biggest game of the day yesterday was that Colorado TCU game.
Oh, yeah.
Colorado wins 45-42. I will hand it to Deion Sanders. I did not think that they would win that game. I was definitely rooting against them because I don't know what it is. I mean, Deion's just very brash, and he just gets I don't know. The stuff with Jackson State was very disingenuous. He's all about hyping up stuff for the HBCUs. And, I have friends who've gone to those schools, and it's I want them to have success. And for him to be there and that was great. But he was just using that as a stepping stone. And that's what pisses me off because it's dude, don't say this shit like you're all about it. And I even just saw, what just happened? I just saw a video of Eddie Robinson Jr. And him doing the handshake at the end of a game with Deion, and he was all pissed at him. And you know what, man? I'm glad Eddie Robinson was pissed at him. I don't know what for, but it just shows that Deion's all about him, and it doesn't even matter. And he uses whatever he can to get, things his way. And you know what? I know he's a good coach. He can obviously recruit well. That's a huge battle. And, the offense looked fucking phenomenal. I mean, Sanders his son had freaking over
500 yards passing.
It's in the last 25 years, it was the most by an FBS quarterback in their debut, which that's crazy. And, I will say, though, TCU's defense is atrocious. They've given up over 150 points in the last 3 games. Yes, it was against Michigan and Georgia and those other two, but still, they're just a bad defense. They were bad last year. They barely did enough to be able to survive all those games last year. And then this year, it just obviously bit them in the butt early. Their offense looks good. They didn't do enough to make a difference there. But, I think this Colorado team is probably going to be like a 5 to 6 win team. And they have a lot of tough games. They have Utah, USC, I believe Oregon.
Yep, they got Oregon.
Yeah, so like they have a lot of tough games that they're probably going to lose a bunch. It was nice for them to get this victory, and it's like especially the juxtaposition of like TCU winning, getting to the national championship game last year and playing, losing to Colorado was a huge plus for Colorado, and now they, it's like, oh, we're good enough to beat the national runner-up, but it's like I have a feeling that TCU is going to end up being like a 5-loss team this year, and
it's going to be. It looks that way because they lost so much talent.
Yeah, there was 3 returning starters on offense. Like the offensive line was new.
And I'll say the same thing too. Credit where credit's due. Me and a buddy from work. Shout out to Josh for this one. We haven't really been sold on Colorado. It is the whole roster turnover and and the whole hype of Deion Sanders. It's cool, but I mean, again, not totally sold. But credit where credit's due. They played their ass off. You could tell like every play they were pedal to the metal at 100.
Travis
wanting
Hunter.
to win that.
Travis yes. Both sides of the ball, an interception, over 100 yards receiving. That is crazy stats. Like there's very few players that have done what he did on Saturday, and it looks like he's going to do that his whole college career. And that is mind-boggling that he was able to do something like that. And I applaud him. And I always knew he was good. I mean, he was the number 2 overall recruit in 21, I believe. And
28. Yeah, it was 2021
or 22. And he's talented as all get out. Everyone knew that. I think the surprise more for me was Sanders. I didn't know if he was as good as as sold, because it was his dad helping to get him hyped up, but he did phenomenal. He made a lot of plays. Again, the caveat is TCU's defense is terrible. So I don't know if next week is going to be a real test for them, that we'll see if they're actually as good as advertised, or it won't be till a little bit later. And there are tough games for them coming up. So we will get a definitive notion of how good they are going forward. Okay, let's move on to Michigan, East Carolina. Michigan wins 30-3. I was kind of disappointed with East Carolina. I thought they were going to score, a little bit, probably like 14, 15, but obviously Michigan's very good. Your thoughts, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, just again, better talent on the Michigan side. I thought the run game would have been more effective for Michigan. Blake Corum, who is one of my Heisman favorites, not a bad game. Just I don't think he had over 100 yards. He did have a touchdown. But overall, the offense, I was kind of expecting more from Michigan. But, I mean, other than that, it's the first game of the year. For that one, it's kind of hard to get as upset about.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to mention this real quick. Oregon scored 81 against Portland.
Yeah. That's like when you play NCAA football in rookie mode.
Yeah, that's definitely some Spurrier shit from the 90s, too.
Absolutely.
All the time. Okay. Ohio State 23, Indiana 3.
This was ugly.
Yeah, that was an ugly game. McCord, at times struggled, and it seems like it's going to be a work in progress there. They have a lot of talent. Wide receiver room is the best in college, and their defense is strong with Knowles coming back as defensive coordinator. So you'll see Ohio State continue to do well regardless of what happens with the quarterback. I think they'll figure things out. Like I always say, Big Ten has one of the weakest conference opponents in, especially, like Rutgers, Purdue is terrible. Northwestern, God, I saw some of their offense today. It was god awful.
Yeah, they're playing Rutgers.
Exactly. So all those teams, they'll get easy wins against whoever they play because they play plenty of easy Big Ten teams, and then they'll have their 2 games they're going to have to get up for, and that's Penn State and Michigan, and that's all they have to worry about because they don't have a great non-conference schedule. So let's move on to Washington, Boise State. Our boy Michael Penix Jr. This kid, man, there's something about this kid. He's just lighting it up. They win 56-19. I want to hear your opinion on this, Ian.
Yeah, it was funny because going throughout the game, I saw this through a lot of teams, and Washington was no exception. The offense really kind of struggled in the first part of it. I know they were down in the first quarter, but once the second quarter started and they, got the ball moving, Washington was able to just run away with it. The defense, although they limited Boise State to 19 points, I know they gave up over 400 yards, which I don't know how much of that was for garbage time, but it still wasn't, especially the first half, it wasn't the best look. But yeah, Penix went off. I know he had 5 touchdowns, and I believe it was over 400 yards.
Yeah.
And he threw it to a myriad of wide receivers. I remember O'Dunzy, I believe was his name, and Polk had both had 100 yards and a touchdown, and McMillan had 2 touchdowns, which shows you how dynamite this offense could be. Because it kind of came out, like I said, they didn't start well in the first quarter, and then in the second quarter they just turned it on. I think they got 28 points going into halftime.
28, yeah. I mean, this kid, honestly, it's probably the most underrated I've heard of a potential Heisman candidate coming into a season, because I know he's a West Coast kid because he's at Washington, but it's like the talent is there. Like we noticed it when he was at Indiana. We knew how good he was there, and it's being more evident because last year they were really good, and on the verge of potentially getting to the Pac-12 championship game. And I honestly feel he's going to be it's going to go Caleb Williams, Drake May, and then Penix Jr. as far as the draft coming up in 2024. But no, just phenomenal player. To beat a solid opponent like Boise State was definitely a huge push towards that Heisman candidacy and towards a big year for them at Washington. A ton of talent in their wide receiver room and elsewhere as well. So let's move on. North Carolina, South Carolina. Mike, just getting better, was at this game. He literally left Salt Lake like Friday morning and then flew to Charlotte and went to the game. And I'm like, dude, 2 huge games in like 2 days. That's crazy. But a crazy game because it was like North Carolina defensively just annihilated Spencer Rattler. I mean, they had I thought I wrote it down, but I guess I didn't. They had so many tackles for losses and sacks. It was like they just were through the line like every time they were coming through. And it was remarkable that South Carolina continued to try to rush the ball, and they had like no success at it at all. And I don't know what South Carolina's identity is on offense because there's not really one. And then on defense, they're so porous. Drake May struggled a little bit, so it wasn't like his best performance, but it was still good enough to where they won comfortably, and it almost never was in doubt past like the midpoint of the third quarter. UNC controlled that game, and besides some special teams play by South Carolina, there was really nothing special about that South Carolina team. And it's just, I don't know. I didn't believe in that team, even though they beat Tennessee and Clemson last year, because I saw how bad they lost to Florida, and I just don't believe in them now. I'm not I don't know. I just don't believe in Beamer. I don't think he's that great of a coach. Yes, you can be good at special teams, but like, if you're terrible at everything else, what the hell is the point? Like, you're not going to be good. And they were, I don't know. But what's your opinion, Ian? Ian? Oh, we seem to have lost him. Hold on.
Oh,
there we are.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think the difference was, although it wasn't fantastic, North Carolina was able to have a positive running game to at least keep South Carolina honest on the rush. So it gave Drake May more freedom to running. Rattler was running for his life that whole game. And I'll give credit to Rattler. He actually, I think he went 30 for 39 or something like that. He actually didn't have a bad game.
But a lot of those were short passes. And but
he had to do short passes because he had maybe 1 second, bam. So I'll give credit. At least they adjusted to okay, he's got 1 second before he gets clobbered. Yeah. But yeah, South Carolina, they really have to work on that offensive line because it was just getting shredded. There was absolutely no run game whatsoever, which again was kind of surprising that they still went to it. This isn't like Florida where it was this is the backbone of it. We kind of knew going in that while Joyner is a very good running back.
Oh, you idiots! Oh my God!
Oh,
God,
that was close.
How did they not get that? It was right there, man.
Oh God, what was it? Oh, Joyner, although he's not he is a very solid running back. It's not you're expecting that, South Carolina rush for 200, 300 yards. It's going to live and die through Rattler. And if you do not give Rattler time or breathing room, it's going to be a long day like it was in this game.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Last couple of games. Penn State, West Virginia. Penn State 38-15. I didn't see Alar's stats at the end. What did you see out of this game? I liked Penn State throughout this game. They're obviously much better than West Virginia. But what did you see out of Alar that you took from this game?
I thought Alar was very efficient. He made very smart passing plays, and I'll give credit to that for the coaching. They did not do a lot of hero ball in this. They did it, very okay, we're going to give them high percentage passing plays, maybe short, medium routes, maybe a play action deep here or there. But it wasn't very taxing for him, which I think is good. That's how you ease a quarterback into this. I know he had over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is a very good start. West Virginia wasn't, as strong as they have been in years past, so I kind of expected that. They did try to make it a game towards the end, but in the end, Penn State had the better team. And once again, what helped in the passing game was that the rushing attack. I think they went back and forth between Singleton and Allen, and that was able to get over 100 yards rushing. So they were able to keep West Virginia honest, to keep Alar more freedom and breathing room for those passing plays. And the offensive line did an impressive job to at least give him that time.
Yeah. Okay, last one real quick. Oregon State beat San Jose State earlier today, 42-17. The only reason I want to mention it, obviously, because Oregon State is going to challenge for the Pac-12, is DJ Younglewe. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. We've been in ukulele. I don't know. We've tried to figure out the last 4 years, and we still struggle. But he actually had a really good game. He had 5 TDs. So maybe if that team can, use his talents as best they can and get the most out of him, maybe they're a 10-win team, possibly 11-win team. I mean, they won nine regular season games, and they won the bowl game against Florida. So maybe there's a chance that they can contend. They beat They barely lost to USC, and some other games were really close as well. So maybe Oregon State with a better quarterback can win some of those close games. The other 2 games, LSU, FSU, is still going on right now. It's 7-7. Clemson.
Does anybody want to win this game? That's what I'm going to say. It's like last year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Clemson Duke is tomorrow night. So both of those 2 we'll talk about on Wednesday. Okay, the show from here on out, it's obviously kind of combobulated the last 2 weeks because of week 0, and then also this being a different week because there was the Thursday game with Florida and I was on the road. So going forward, every Sunday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, we will do the show live. It'll be on every other format afterwards, YouTube and all the podcast formats as well. So if you can't catch it live, you can catch it on those other ones. Our articles have been doing very well, and I appreciate all the views from everybody. And we will continue to do more. There will likely be something about the Tennessee game, and potentially if USF can win a game here or not. And Jaden Daniels, oh wow, that was a good run. So look for us on all the formats that we have. Haterradio.com is the website, at @hater_radio for Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. For YouTube, it's at Hater Radio, just one word, and haterradio1@gmail.com for email. So that is the show. I'm Chris McLean and Ian Gibson. What are your socials real quick before we go?
GGatorG2 at Twitter and GGatorG for Instagram and YouTube.
That's it. So enjoy the game tonight, and we'll talk to you later. All right, later.